ready? Hello, 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 and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to day 5 of the Ideas That Ignite mini summit. Yo, we have had an epic week, and I am just so excited to have you all here today. I know that you all have been waiting patiently for our signature, our final guest for the summit, Miss Cloe Shasha Brooks from TED, the curator from TED. Before bringing up Sasha, have a really quick, interesting little fun fact to share with you all that I didn't even know about. I honestly could not have planned this better. But today actually marks 7 years since I met Cloe. So just as a quick little screen share, I just wanted to share. This popped up in my Facebook today, and I had no clue. But I just want to share with you really quickly a little post that I had from this time. Let's see if I can find it. Whoops. Let's see. Give me a quick second here. Okay, here we go. So this was what popped up in my feed from today, which was 7 years ago today. I was talking about last night's TED Talk. It was amazing on so many levels. As you can see, this picture is kind of like blurry, and because I gave my picture. I mean, I gave my camera to somebody in the audience. I was like, please just take a picture of me on stage. Please just take a picture. Totally forgot that the professionals from TED were actually going to give me real pictures, but I didn't get them like the next day. So this is what I posted the next day. And I also totally forgot that like Morgan Spurlock was also backstage. I think that there was like so much just going on this particular night. But I do remember the fact that Questlove from The Roots was there, because everybody had pictures with him afterwards, and I didn't, because I was like directly after him or something was going on. I can't remember. Anyways, I just thought it was super cool that 7 years ago today was when I was actually on stage. And 7 years ago was when Cloe was transitioning from her past role into her current role as the curator for TED. So I just wanted to share that little update. Let's bring her up to the stage. All right, Cloe, you there? Can you hear me?
Hey, so good to see you.
So good seeing you too. I couldn't believe the timing of 7 years.
That's amazing. I love that so much. I had forgotten that it was in October that year, but that's exactly right. Amazing.
Yeah, crazy, right? So I wanted to just jump right into today's discussion to like get to like the meat and potatoes of like who you are, what this is all about, how more people can like be involved in understanding what goes into becoming a TED speaker, or how you select people, all the different opportunities. So you ready to jump into this?
That sounds great. And I'm having a little bit of a glitchy sound situation in hearing you. So if you don't hear me, just tell me and I'll try something else.
Okay.
But I will jump right in.
Okay.
You're hearing me okay right now?
Yep. I'm hearing you perfectly fine.
Okay, great. So I've been at TED for 9.5 years, and my job is as the speaker development curator. So what that really means is that I'm both looking for speaker ideas myself through my own research and looking all over multiple different areas of interest and fields to find people. But I also oversee the speaker nomination database that we have, which is where we get more than 25,000 speaker nominations per year from around the world. And so I have a little team that helps me go through those, and we find the best of, and we sometimes invite them to do idea searches, which is like what you did in October 7 years ago. And sometimes we invite them to other formats. Some of them are virtual, some are on the stage. So I feel really grateful to do the work that I do. I get to learn a lot, and it's fun.
That's a lot of people, 25,000 people that actually go through either is it the nomination process or the application process, or what are these 25,000 people?
So basically, if you just Google nominated TED speaker, there's a form that comes up, and about 25,000 nominations come through that form per year. So,
Got it.
we're always going through these different ideas from different people, and we have a way of kind of sorting them quite quickly so that we don't have to spend equal amount of time on every single nomination, depending on how filled out it is, the quality of what's in there, whether the person has experience or credentials in the area that they're talking about. And then we will sometimes invite those people to do talks, but it's a percentage of how we find speakers. The other percentages, our job as curators is to find people ourselves as well. So it's a combo.
Got it. So people can always go through the process of like just going into like, nominate a speaker, they can nominate themselves, or they can have somebody else nominate them. But they can also submit to things like the idea search and that's another popular way for people to also get in front of your guys' radar.
Absolutely, yeah. So we're actually planning to run an idea search in the next month or so. We'll have out an application, and that is separate from our nomination form, though we sometimes pull people from our nomination database and invite them to participate in the idea search. And then sometimes we'll pull people from the database who we're sure that we already want them to give a talk on a main stage, so we'll just invite them directly. It just depends on the topic and the theme of our events in a given year.
Got it. So can you talk to people through a little bit about like you said that for the 25,000 that do submit, that some of them you're able to go through rather quickly. And I can imagine what it takes to actually like kind of like stand out if you're just trying to like throw it out there. And also like, what do you look for in terms of the idea search? Because I know in my particular year, 7 years ago, there was a lot of questions around what exactly is this process? Is this an audition? And where and how many idea searches will there be? I'm sorry, I'm like throwing a bunch of questions at you all at once. But let's start off with what makes a great like application first. Yeah. Let's start off with what makes a great application.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, so I think what's interesting is what we're learning over the years is that designing a better application designing better application questions yields better applications, right? So a lot of it is on us to put out the right prompts to get people to understand what it is that we want from them. Because people who are familiar with TED or who have attended some TED event or even a TEDx event will have a better understanding of what to put in there, like what a TED Talk is, than someone who hasn't. And that's not always fair, right? So a lot of what we try and do now is put prompts, like the database form now has evolved over the years, and it has more questions that are designed to get people to acknowledge what they want their idea to be in a talk, as well as what impact they want that talk to leave on the audience. What do they want the audience to take away from the talk? So being able to share that and making sure that it's clear that what they want to talk about really has an idea or an insight and not just an issue is really helpful. And what I mean by issue is, let's say someone were to pitch themselves to give a talk about why homophobia is a problem. That to me is an issue, right? And so thinking about that is, of course, an important topic. People need to be aware of it. But for the TED platform, we would want to take it a step forward, beyond that. So if someone, had credibility in some way to talk about issues of the LGBTQ community and could say, the talk is how to get rid of how to reduce homophobia through certain types of dialogue or certain types of educational systems. That is more of an idea, because then there's something in there that actually people will learn from. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a how-to, but often that can be a helpful way to think about it, to frame it for yourself if you're a person nominating yourself to give a talk.
Right. That totally makes sense, because I know that one of the biggest things that I've seen for people that I've worked with over my years as an instructor for the Moth, and then also just like helping out fellow storytellers, other people to get on the TED stage, is the distinction between what exactly is an idea versus like what is like a keynote or a story. And I think that a lot of people have like a hard time trying to distinguish like, what is the difference between an idea and a keynote. So is there anything else that you would mention in terms of like, I like this thing about like, if you think about it as a how-to, not necessarily like as a how-to, but more in terms of like how to shift it from not an issue, but an idea. Any other tips that people can think about in terms of shifting their mindset into from an issue to an idea?
Yeah, I mean, I think, the story example is a good one because often TED Talks do have stories in them, right? It doesn't mean that there can't be issues mentioned in the talks or there can't be stories in the talks. But if someone's telling a story in the talk, like what does that lead the audience to beyond just a feeling, right? So like if
Mhm.
in many cases, I love the Moth personally. So I love listening to the Moth and going to, or back when pre-COVID, when we could go to the Moth. I love that experience because you're like hearing these stories and you relate them to yourself and you laugh or you cry. And so like, thinking about how a story can be put in the context of a bigger picture in terms of what does that mean for XYZ? What does that mean for biology? What does that mean for, the future of education? So taking
Mhm.
the story and putting it in the bigger context can often be a way to help think about what the idea is too.
Got it. Got it. I hope that that's helpful for those who are listening and those who are watching on replay, because I know that that's like one of the hardest challenges of actually trying to figure out how to shift uh, your mindset. And I personally know that when I applied the first time to TED, I was flat out rejected. And then, so a couple of days ago, I was sharing with people parts of my application, and I
I
think I
didn't even know
understand why.
that.
Yeah, I was straight up rejected, girl. It was just like, but when I looked back over my application, it was much more focused on like kind of like the story. And so I was talking a little bit about how I hadn't seen many people like myself and my twin brother Dwayne, who has Down syndrome. And I kind of talked about the story about a show called Life Goes On, where the very first time that I saw a person with Down syndrome on television. But when I was reading it back over, I realized that I didn't really kind of get to the idea like quick enough or like poignantly, is that a word? It is now. But I didn't get to it like enough. And so I think that I'm starting to see a lot of those distinctions. So I'm glad that you helped to clarify that.
Well, the other interesting thing is I find it really hard for myself to help me get myself from an issue to an idea or my own story, but it's much easier for me to look in on someone else's narrative and do that. So I think that for anyone applying, it could be useful to just bounce it off another person. Just get anyone's feedback on like, okay, does this actually leave you with an insight? Because it's like sometimes from my own stories, I'm like, yes, that's the insight, but is it actually the insight or is it just for me? You know?
Right, right, 100%, 100%. Love it, love it. So take us back for a second. Like you mentioned that the idea search, first of all, is there only one idea search? And you said that it's coming up in a couple of weeks. Like, how can we find out more about that?
Yeah, so we try and do them every year, every couple years. It's evolving over time, right? So they may come up more regularly in the future, but for now, it's just this one is the one we have planned. So if you go on TED.com, like in the next few weeks, you'll see, apply for the idea search banners. It'll also be on TED social media, on Twitter and Instagram. But so that will be basically an application form that involves applying to give a talk with a video. And so filming yourself, kind of answering some questions that will be in the application form about, what's your talk about and what's the idea and what do you want to leave people with after this talk, all the things we're talking about now. And so the next step from there is that we will basically do some sort of like second round selection process where people will have a chance to, if they're chosen for the next round, they actually get to chat with some of the TED community about what their idea is further. And then from there, we decide who will produce into longer form talks.
Got it. So then, does that mean that TED at New York City is now rebranded TED Salon, or did you have these salons before, or the idea searches before?
Yeah, so that's exactly right. The New York salon evolved into these idea searches that were actually at one point around the world, and then now we're back to just an idea search. And now that we live in this virtual world, we're just doing it virtually. So,
Got it.
but
Got
it's
it.
likely to change again as we tend to be quite experimental with our formats as long as we're still bringing in good content.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's like a great transition into my next question, because I know a lot of people have been asking, like, A, is TED doing stuff now? And I've been answering that question that absolutely TED is doing stuff. I know that you guys have like a very, very long, like several months worth of programming in replace of your traditional conference this year because of COVID. But two things as it relates to like virtual stages. Uh, A, what do you kind of like see as the future for TED, at least kind of going into like parts of 2021, because some people are really passionate about speaking on like a physical stage, and some people are like, yo, I don't care, like this is TED, right? So A, kind of like, what is your guys' plan around that? And B, if somebody were accepted and they really wanted to be able to do it live on a physical stage, do they have the option to wait?
Yeah, all great questions. So the most exciting thing is that tomorrow is a big event for TED. That's actually our first free event to the public, and it's called the Climate Countdown. It's basically a full day of programming from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time, all with the mission to, basically save our planet. People of all different backgrounds, scientists, journalists, policymakers are speaking. There's workshops and things like that. But so that's one of the first events we've ever done with like truly one theme that's almost like a targeted action-oriented theme. Most of our conferences circulate around multiple different areas. TED stands for Technology, Entertainment, Design. We go beyond those three categories in almost all of our conferences, but this is all climate focused. So that's tomorrow, and anyone can tune in online. It will be streaming on YouTube. You can see all the details on the TED Talks Twitter in order how to find the way to join. I will also tweet it as well. And then after that, we have another virtual event called TED Women, which is mostly women speakers, some men as well, and non-binary folks. And that is for that's we're doing that one virtually because we just didn't know about 6 months ago if we could do it in person. So we planned it virtually, and thank goodness we did, because it does absolutely still seem like the safest thing to do. So that's coming up in November. That has tickets that are being sold online, so you can just Google TED Women 2020. And then we will have some smaller other virtual events throughout early 2021, but our next big thing is our main stage event in Monterey. So that actually is, as of now, a planned in-person conference in June of 2021.
Got it.
If we are able to do it in person, we'll likely make it smaller than our standard flagship conference, which is typically in April in Vancouver, but this year it's in June in Monterey. And so if it can't be in person, we'll of course pivot to a virtual format. But so if people are really itching to do something on a stage, that would be the first time we can do it.
Got
And then
it.
there will hopefully be more opportunities in 2021 and beyond.
Got it. So if anybody were to like submit for the idea search that's coming up, and if they just by chance were accepted, they could potentially be on the stages of the Monterey main stage in June 2021.
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility. More likely, though, most of those talks will be put on TED.com as virtual ones, because it's an amazing way to find great content and talent and put it on our day-to-day release schedule. But yes, there are always opportunities in the future to be in person, and people are welcome to say, I'd like to hold, and reapply later. So
Got it.
that's always an option.
Okay, cool. So can you talk us through a little bit of, because I know like with the TEDx's, there seems like to be like a billion of TEDx's these days, there's like so many. But there's also a lot of TEDs, like, TED Salon, TED Med, TED Ed, TED Women. Can you talk us through like a little bit about the different iterations of these and which ones, if any, people can apply to?
Definitely. So yeah, so TEDx events are independently organized TED events, right? So anyone listening to this could apply for a TEDx license to host their own event. And as long as you follow the branding and guidelines and are able to put the whole thing together, most people, well, I actually don't know what the exact percentage of accepted applications are, but people who are well prepared will probably get accepted to host an event. So that is something that on your own, you can bring your own speakers as long as it doesn't have an agenda, et cetera, or marketing component. But that is a whole big project that people take on outside of their jobs often. And there have been, on average, 10 TEDx events a day worldwide. Now it's a little bit lower because of COVID. People are still doing virtual events on the TEDx platform. People can apply to attend those or speak at them anytime. And it's actually quite specific to each organizer's preferences. So there's not really one place to apply to give a TEDx talk because each one is like its own little entity, and so it has its own little ecosystem for finding people. But if you know someone who's given a TEDx talk, that can be a good way to be like, hey, do you know the organizer? Would they be interested in this? And you can find a connection to your local TEDx events and organizers that way. As for the events happening at TED throughout the year, yeah, there are these salons, which again right now are virtual, but some of those are themed around, something about innovation. We have several that are kind of business focused in a given year, and those are curated by our team and are often available to view live online by anyone. Some of them are private though, and then we have. We have these bigger events that we're doing now, as I mentioned, Countdown, TED Women, and those are all separate from the other programs you mentioned, which are TED Ed. I don't know if you mentioned this, but TED Fellows. So we have a lot of branches of TED that are part of our system, but they're not exactly events. So TED Ed is the education platform where people can watch animated videos and other amazing content designed for educating youth of all ages. And I personally love watching those talks. Even as an adult, I find that the way that they teach kids is very, very useful for adults too. All kinds of things like how different cells grow and what chemicals are in our water and other scary or cool things. And then the TED Fellows program is a way, that's actually something that people can apply for as well. That's often sort of a younger cohort, although not necessarily, but I would say on average a younger cohort than our main stage speakers, because they're often a little bit earlier in their careers. They're still in the phase of developing their careers and are still often looking for resources, but are already on track to doing something amazing. And the fellows have a really cool experience because they get to get sort of mentorship from other fellows, go to events together, and then they also give a talk themselves at a TED conference.
That's awesome. I actually think I've met quite a few fellows over the past years, and I didn't realize that that's what the program was all about. But you might know the name Shalini Kantaya, filmmaker, did a film called Coded Bias. Yeah, and oh gosh, I'm spacing out on his name, but he's a fellow that also I saw his TED Talk recently. Criminal justice kind of stuff. I'm spacing out on the name, but very cool to know that people can also apply to the Fellows program, and they can almost have like a community of support from the TED staff and amongst themselves, and then they're guaranteed a TED spot as well. Very cool. Very cool.
Sorry, I missed that last question.
Guaranteed I was guaranteed a spot on the TED stage as well after doing their fellowship. Got it. Cool. I see that we have a couple of questions, so I just want to make sure that we're covering some of those as well. So the first one comes over here from Bridget. I think you may have talked about this already. Does TED have themes or categories to apply, career, shifts in career, sports, etc.?
Yeah, so when you apply on our website to give a talk, there's actually little check boxes of categories that you can select for yourself or whoever you're nominating about the category of work that it is about or experience. So they're pretty blunt categories, like they're not very nuanced. So there's a way to, you can fit a lot of different things in each of them. But that is a way for us to be looking out for different types of talks. And so, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are looking for topics in every possible dimension because we want to be as diverse in our talks as possible.
Cool. And I've noticed that a lot of the themes seem pretty broad. Like I think I saw one that was like unsettled or new horizons or I feel like some of the themes that I've seen from TED have been pretty broad, generally speaking. Would you say that's accurate, or is that not so accurate?
Yeah, no, it's actually funny because it's definitely a discussion we have internally a lot. Like, is this too general? Is this too specific? And I think often for conference themes, the sweet spot tends to be something that is like a nice North Star, like a guiding light for how we want to curate, but not so limiting that we can't accept people in certain fields or something like that, right? So we wanted to allow for the full spectrum of content information, but with like a guiding light around some way of looking at those topics. So a good example is the theme for June 2021's Monterey conference, which is the case for optimism. So that is now online. People can apply to attend now. And that is kind of something that is somewhat of a specific focus, but there's a case for optimism in every single field, right? So I think that to me is a good way of designing them for what we're trying to do at TED. Meanwhile, the event that's tomorrow, as I mentioned, Countdown, is all about the countdown to when we can no longer save our climate. So that is quite specific, but that's pretty unusual for us.
Oh, that's really interesting. I didn't realize that was the countdown to like the end of the world, which seems pretty accurate considering what's going on in 2020. So
totally. Terrifyingly so.
Terrifyingly so. Oh, okay, that totally makes sense. All right, cool. I have another question over here. I'm going to jump to. Are there any areas that TED is not seeing enough applications for, or are there any areas that you're seeing too many applications?
Actually, that's a great question. We do get, I would say, a lot of applications from people who want to give talks about leadership or motivational speaking in general, or finding your creative path. And while those topics can be wonderful talk topics for a TED Talk, it's pretty hard for someone to give that talk in a way that is new if they don't have like really specific credibility around those areas. Like, leadership is a buzzword, so it's easy to want to give a talk about something that feels like that. But, the most successful talks are ones that have something unique in them that is specific to that person's life and experience and lens, right? So I think I would say if someone is looking to apply to give a TED Talk and they're not sure what to do it on, and then they think of leadership or motivational speaking or how to find creativity, I would say that would be a less likely success than other topics. As for things we're looking for, we're definitely looking for kind of just like the niche things that we don't know about. Like the more inventions, the more exciting. Things that really are having some kind of impact anywhere in the world. Not inventions in the sense that it's a product pitch, because we don't necessarily want to have a talk about, someone's startup on its own if it doesn't have a broader context. But if a startup has a product that has an impact that changes the way we see things, that's really powerful. We're always looking for the standard TED areas of technology, entertainment, design, of course, but also science and business and, arts and culture. So I would say in terms of what we're looking for, the horizons are broad, but in terms of what we aren't looking for, I think those first three topics are a thing to potentially avoid unless you're truly an expert in any of those three things.
Dropping some knowledge bombs, ladies and gentlemen. There's enough Brene Browns out there, so TED might not be looking for any more leadership or motivational stuff. But when you were talking, Chloe, it actually reminded me of a couple of friends who have kind of done invention or new product kind of designed things. You might know, or you might remember Dan Barish. He was talking about,
Yeah, yeah,
it's called
yeah.
the city. Yeah. So for those of you who are in New York City, there's something that's called the High Line, which was railroads that were converted into like this outdoor space that's above ground, as an elevated above ground park. And Dan and another engineer came up with this idea to try and take the outside light and convert it into uh, a low line. Sorry, like space out what was it called for a second. A low line, which is like this abandoned area where subway cars used to be. It's like on the Lower East Side, and to actually have like natural light create this natural park underground, which I thought was a really cool invention slash idea. And the second person that came to mind when you mentioned this was Caesar Kuriyama. Um, he pitched
Yep.
a product called One Second Every Day. Like he was a designer who was really kind of frustrated with people constantly being at concerts, like like, oh, let's watch every single aspect of this concert from my phone, and just wanted to be able to capture something like 1 second every single day. And I know that both of them spoke at TED, TED in New York City, TED Salon, whatever it was framed at that point in time. But it's interesting because they both kind of had these ideas leading into TED. So I'm curious, like, how do you differentiate between somebody who has like a business or a product and is kind of like pitching that business or product versus somebody like a Dan or a Caesar who has like something that they're working on? Maybe it's not quite there yet, but what can you say about the difference between the way that they could pitch themselves so it doesn't seem like they're just kind of propping up their business or their product or their service?
Yeah, that's a really great way of asking that question. I think that is honestly a huge challenge even for us as curators to help someone who we've invited to give a talk that involves a product they've created, to make sure it doesn't feel like a pitch. Like it actually is incredibly hard, even if they come in there with a clear idea about why it's so important. Like let's take Dan Barish, like you mentioned, as a good example. The Low Line, which was a beautiful place. I went and visited it after he
Same.
gave that talk. It could have sounded like, okay, this is just my park underground, but the idea that, oh, we could actually rethink cities and refract light down into the ground to make parks be something that aren't only in a place where there's tons of open space above ground is kind of revolutionary if it works, and like that plant life could even grow there, and it's not just a greenhouse with UV lights, right? So that, to me, making sure that came forward in that talk was so important, as opposed to just saying we have a high line, now we have a low line, right? And so
Right.
having that kind of let's rethink cities attitude is what made that talk about a product or a place work. So I think, and I don't really remember the specifics of Caesar's talk, but he's wonderful, and I've used his app, and I think it's such a cool thing.
Same.
I mean,
Yeah.
what you just said about not wanting people to hold their cameras up all day or all concert long to capture every moment because it's not useful to anyone there in the moment, or you later, you're never going to rewatch the whole concert. Like that's also a shift about how we interact with technology. So that to me is the idea. Like how do we stop people from overusing phones in a way that takes away from the moment? Here's an app that seems like it might actually be adding to the noise of apps, but might actually take away from how much you use your phone in the long run because you capture these moments. So things like that. I mean, I hope that's helpful. Like just thinking about your idea and your product and what it actually means in the context of society or technology or cities or the way we live in some way can help it move away from product pitch form.
Got it. Oh, that is like so helpful because I do know like a lot of people who are entrepreneurs, who are thought leaders, kind of like the big dream is to do a TED talk or a TEDx talk. And it's a curious, it's another fine line in terms of like making sure that you're not pitching your nonprofit or pitching your cool app, but actually thinking about like the idea, like how does this change the way that we interact with the world or interact with other people? I'm starting to see like even more just like talking to you, like it just makes sense. that's really, really helpful. So my next question kind of goes back to something that we were talking about a second ago when we were like leaning into Bridget's question. I know that like a couple of years ago, you guys started looking also for like storytellers and people who weren't necessarily like experts in their field. And I was kind of blown away because at first I just thought that TED was just really like a platform for people who are like the top 1% of the industry who like knew their ish and could get on the stages, you know? So I'm really curious to hear a little bit more about like what storytellers or people who just have like a really passionate story could do to shift their story into an idea, and the other kind of creative folks. 'Cause I also know that you have opportunities for like poets and musicians and that kind of stuff. So could you talk about like the creativity angle and how that ties into TED?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we do have, of course, a big desire to program arts in many forms. So, musicians can just come on stage and perform music. Poets can sometimes just come on stage and do a poem. And sometimes even, authors who have written a beautiful book that many people care about, or is a book that's trending in some way, and we invite them and we're like, well, we actually don't know what the talk is. They might do a combination of reading and giving a talk in some form, like reading excerpts from the book and talking about their process. So it is a blurrier line for sure with the arts and creative things. There are talks from people who are artists that really do like come across as an idea. I mean, one that I think is a good example of that is Jad Abumrad, who gave a talk this past TED 2020. It's a virtual talk, and he's the podcast producer of multiple podcasts, including Radio Lab and Dolly Parton's America most recently. And so in Dolly Parton's America, he really is exploring some of these questions of what is truth, because everybody has, all these different people are connecting around Dolly Parton, her music, but they have such different political perspectives and backgrounds and ethnicities and ages and genders. So it's like, what is it that, unites people around one person? So that question in that podcast, in a way, he evolved as the question for his TED Talk, which is, what is truth right now? And so he kind of did it while using, and I recommend everyone watch this talk. It's really beautiful. He pulls in pieces of the podcast itself to show this exploration. So that to me is an example of a talk that is from a creator, involves their art, but also has a narrative arc that gets the audience to think about something a little bit differently. And then there's other artists who don't necessarily do that, who are almost showing their work and talking about it in a way that has a narrative arc, but may not at the end make people think, oh, now I see this differently, but rather, oh, wow, I never even knew this existed. And that can have value too. So I would say for artists who are applying, don't feel intimidated by the fact that you don't have a clear talk idea that you can't imagine giving in the context of your work. Sometimes it comes together later, but showing the art and why the art is meaningful and how there's a theme in it for you and what the story is there can often help us to help the artist craft that talk.
Interesting. Like once again, as you were talking, I was having flashbacks to 2017. 2013, when Chantel Martin, she was an artist who was also on stage. Chantel Martin, right? And I know that she's gone on now and done, I think, another virtual talk. But she's just like a woman of color who basically takes like one line and just kind of draws all of her things in black and white. And it's all really kind of impressed that she was, I think in that talk in 2013, it was mostly just about her process. So it wasn't even like like a crazy idea, but it was like really about like how she kind of gets into the flow of creating something that was like a signature look for her.
Totally. And in her new talk, it's actually, it's beautiful. And you see her drawing because we were able to do it virtually. We were able to film her in her studio and doing some of the pieces outdoors. That was also this past TED 2020 event. And so that's actually a perfect example of a talk, even this most recent one, of one where it's not like the traditional TED Talk idea flow, but somehow it still leaves people with an aha and a wow, and that as an art talk, it works for our platform in that way.
Very cool. Very cool. So in addition to like storytellers and like artists who actually do like an actual talk, I know that at TEDx's they also bring up like sometimes performers to like kind of like weave in between each event. So it's not actually part of the talking or idea part of the event, but it's part of the entertainment part of the event. Does TED do that as well? Just like have entertainment?
Yes, and we film all of that content though, so it does still go on TED.com. Like you can find, musical performances just as their own TED Talks, but there's no talking.
Oh, okay, cool. So I know that was something that we talked a lot about like yesterday, like in other days of the summit. So that's really, really helpful. And I hope also very encouraging for people out there who are like artists, storytellers, that kind of stuff. So, and as a final like little follow up to this question is I know that some people are really worried like, okay, well, I haven't done a lot of speaking gigs, or I'm not necessarily an expert in this particular field. Do people need to be an expert? Do people need to have like a bunch of speaking gigs under their belt? Does it help?
So it certainly helps in the sense that, if you're someone who has experience giving talks in a way that connects with an audience, it gives you a leg up, but it is not a requirement for entry. That is what we're here for. So as curators, we work with each speaker for typically many months to get their talk ready, and that involves tone and delivery and comfort and how to get comfortable standing up, how not to do sort of repetitive pacing motions and other things that any nervous person will do when they're speaking. And we're all, we all have experienced that in some form. And then we also have speaker coaches. So we have a director of speaker coaching at TED, and her job is primarily to work with all the speakers we've already invited and get them across that finish line to really be ready to do the talk on stage, or even virtually. Like even virtually, people can be nervous with their cameras there, and in the virtual world, we've actually had a way of propping up a camera in their house that we're watching from, and having hopefully someone that they're quarantined with help them film. So
Wow.
It's a lot of pressure, even though it's in your house or in your studio or whatever. So we have resources for that. If you're doing a TEDx event, many TEDx organizers also provide resources for that. So definitely don't, if you're someone who wants to speak and doesn't have the experience, don't let that stop you.
Cool. So you hear people, you don't need to be an expert, but it does help if you like get some help, with somebody else for feedback, or to actually just stand and, to do it. And I was just remembering that when I did my talk, I'm a storyteller. Like I'm used to hosting shows. I've been doing stuff at the Moth for like 8 years now, 8 to 10 years. And I remember when I came to TED, it was the first time, I think Kelly was my coach. But she was like, hey, can you use slides? And I was like, slides? I've never used slides like a day in my life before a story. But I was so glad to be able to get that coaching, because I remember there's a part of my story when I'm talking about like the vision that I would draw for myself if I had to do something different than being a runner. And so it was either Kelly or somebody else from the team, I can't remember, but they were like, well, for that part, all you have to do is put like a blank slide. And I was like, oh, a blank slide. And so I remember I put up straight up a black slide and it worked. I'm so used to like having to find the right words in order for people to like almost like close their eyes and visualize what I'm looking like, or what I'm doing in any given moment. And just the ability to try something new was actually like a ton of fun. So yeah,
that's awesome. Cool. Yeah, Kelly is the greatest.
Kelly rocks. Tell her I'm sending my love and thank you for all the coaching many years ago. It still kind of sits with me today. It's like one of the best memories of my life. So
That's awesome.
yes, yes. So I'm going to jump over to the questions in just a moment. But I wanted to know, like you said earlier, that you go to other events in order to kind of like sometimes find speakers or to find ideas. Like, what kind of events and where do you go? I want to make sure that everybody goes that to all those events that you go to. And no, just kidding. But like, what kind of events do you go to, like to find speakers or to find ideas?
Yeah, totally. I mean, so there's no way we could go to all, even with the number of curators on our team, which is, a handful, even split up between us, we couldn't possibly go to all the events we should be going to because there's just so much happening, even
Mhm.
virtually now.
Mhm.
But we're basically we try and go to conferences that are actually, in a way, I think that we find conferences that are quite focused on a topic to be more useful to us rather than other conferences that are similarly diverse in topics, because if it's a very niche uh, area of speakers, we're more likely to find people we haven't heard of, Whereas
Mhm.
a place
Mhm.
that has like a big broad range of people will honestly have a lot of overlap with our past speakers and stuff like that. So examples are, like, I personally love the Oslo Freedom Forum, which is typically in Oslo, but right now it's, this year it's been virtual. Sometimes they have smaller satellite events in New York and other cities, but it's run by the Human Rights Foundation, and it's
Hmm.
all human rights focused content. And so I meet people and see people on stage from all over the world, talking about human rights violations and initiatives and just sort of political perspectives and geopolitical insights that I've never encountered.
Hmm.
And we found speakers from there that I brought to TED who have been amazing, because it's just, they're doing some incredible work in their country that we just don't know about. And the Human Rights Foundation is more connected to that kind of work. So that's like an example of what I mean, of like a place that has something kind of narrowly focused. Our science curator will go to like very academically heavy science conferences. Our business curator will go to, business focused conventions and things like that. I've gone to South by Southwest in the past and found some interesting things. So that is actually a conference that has a wide variety of topics, but you can choose the panels and stuff, right? So there's so much happening that you can kind of find some niche things there. Um,
Hmm.
but I would just say, if people are looking to curate speakers, which I think is probably different than the other things that we've been talking about, it is really nice to go to places that have a specialty.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I definitely have heard about like like South by Southwest, and I know it's a massive conference, as well as like Aspen Ideas. I'm not so sure if like you guys have ever done anything like have gone there, but
Yeah,
so
I
how?
was going to go there this year and then COVID, so I didn't go.
Right, right. Aspen's it's a cool festival. I've gone for like the past like five or so, always as a training people to do a talk on the last day of the. It's either the last day of the ideas or the
Cool.
last day of health. But yeah, it's a very very cool event. Um, so let's see here. Let's jump into, because this kind of like ties in directly into what we were talking about a second ago. If people are interested in curating, um, you know, where can they find out about the fees, guidelines for hosting a local TEDx?
Yeah. So there's no fees to TED. It's actually not that kind of franchise. It's more just that once you get a TEDx license, you have to fundraise and design the whole cost structure yourself, and you don't get financial assistance from TED. But if you go to TED.com and just click on the TEDx tab, you will find all the info there about organizing. If it feels confusing on the website, honestly, just Googling how to organize a TEDx event will get you exactly to the page that you want on the TED website.
Awesome. I Now that I'm in the Bay Area, I'm thinking about just checking out which ones are out here, because I've been to TEDx Berkeley. Um, a couple of my clients have spoken in TEDx's in other countries. TEDx is all over the place. But I think it's really cool to like know what's going on in your local community and to to be involved if possible. So let's see here. Christina asked if
Definitely.
there's one set place to find all the TED Talks, how do you know how to find them? Find all the TED
Um,
Talks.
well, if she means like the talks to watch, they actually are all on TED.com, and you can like search by topics and stuff. But if but it's
Oh,
the TEDx talks, which are not the same as TED Talks, are on the YouTube channel.
I think she might mean like between like the TED Med, TED Ed, uh, TED Women. Um, I think that she's talking about like those things as opposed to, I think.
The conferences, yeah.
Right. Yes.
Um, so I mean, every upcoming conference is on the conferences page of the TED.com website. So if you Google TED conferences upcoming, you'll get to that part of the site where it will show what to sign up for in terms of attending, or what's coming up. And then the thing is, we actually don't announce them way in advance. We announce them once tickets are open. So that's just part of how we are able to sell tickets effectively.
Okay. So she can go to the TED website and all of the different iterations of TED would be there to kind of
Yeah.
map through. Got it. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
So let's see here. Let's go to Devin. Devin is asking, what's your favorite part of being a curator? And what are the ideas, topics you personally connect to as a curator?
Oh, well, thanks. That's a very generous question, Devin. I love that I get to learn all the time. That's really my favorite part, is I get to
Yes.
dive into other people's worlds and help them pull out the parts of their work that connect with people who maybe aren't in that field. And so that is just such an honor for me, and I find it to be very satisfying and endlessly interesting, because anytime I go from one speaker to another, I'm doing it all over again in a completely different way with someone else. So that's my favorite part of it. And the topics I personally connect to are a lot of the human rights things and culture in general, multiple topics, internationally, that are sort of about culture.
Mm,
I also really care about finding voices that are not as heard. So that's often minorities in some form of, whether it's other countries or ethnic or LGBTQ, et cetera, finding people who aren't as easily given a platform and making sure that they get the same care and training, if not more, than the more dominant voices. So that's obviously not a topic, but that is just a big priority for me throughout curation. And for all of us, that's all of us at TED care about that deeply. And then I also personally just really connect to social sciences and health topics. That's kind of what I nerd out on myself. So when I get the chance to work with a speaker who is talking about psychology, which, I majored in psychology, so I do care about that a lot. It's very fun for me.
very cool. Very, very cool. It's funny because your first part of your answer is like my exact same answer. Like whenever people ask me like what's my favorite part of being a coach, is that fact that I constantly feel like I'm learning, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the second part in terms of like, the psychology, the type of speakers, it's funny because I'm also very connected to human rights because I studied policy in grad school, which is very
Totally.
broad, very, very broad, but kind of like, it shows, I think it's interesting to see what people gravitate to and why, you know? Which kind of like leads me into like, we talked a little bit about this
Absolutely.
before, but what is Ted's current and ongoing commitment? In light of like George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor and like all the like racial uprisings and strife and things that have been going on, especially in this past year, very visibly. I know that not only have you guys been bringing in people who are not necessarily experts or people who are like maybe not aren't known, but there also seems to be like more of a leaning into this commitment to diversity. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Definitely. I mean, I think that what has happened, these tragedies have not, changed our commitment to diversity, and that it's always been a commitment. But what it has done for us is allowed us to focus specifically on racial justice in some longer form interviews, which we've had recently,
I've
which
seen
I think
that.
have been a really interesting way and compelling way for our particular platform to explore solutions to what's happening, and both long term and short term. So we've had multiple experts on our virtual stage since all this has happened, speaking to racial justice in different ways, and we plan to continue to do that.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you for that answer and for that commitment, because I know that it's something that I've been dedicating myself to, especially in this group, is bringing together diverse voices, women, other people from like other countries who are, also like really passionate about speaking and sharing an idea. So really cool and nice to hear that that's also a commitment on from the TED staff.
Yeah, totally.
Cool. So let's jump over here to Robin Gelfenbein. I know this is a good friend of mine. I call her Gelado. But she asked if you can go back to the storytelling question about bridging the gap from a story to a talk. So can you pitch a story on its own with an aha or a wow moment, or do you have to make that idea really clear with a more of a talk aspect?
Yeah, I think this is a really important question, because it is actually, whenever I talk about this, I feel like what I'm saying is vague. And part of it is because it is a little vague, because it's not consistent all the time. And so, Robin, you've definitely noted that in this question. I think that one of the things that is true is that there are instances where we do have storytelling talks, and there's instances where we wouldn't, and we want them to be more idea-based talks. And so, yes, it is definitely possible to pitch a story with an aha or a wow without a clear idea. What I would say is just look and see if it's a new story in some way. Like if we have a lot of things around that on the TED platform, or even if it's just like a really common narrative that we're hearing a lot of, like it may not be chosen for that reason, just because we want to bring new things to our audience. And so like one of the things that we ask people is like, what makes this idea new? And so in this case, if you are really compelled to pitch a story, like what makes the story new and what makes it timely now? So those are some things that can help when pitching a story. And then often, if you're a person doing that, and there is maybe some kind of idea way to pitch the story, like to shape the story in a narrative arc that like brings out an idea, we can help with that as well. So yeah, I think that's what I would say is look out, look around, see what else is out there on TED story wise, and see if, what makes your story different and timely and important.
Cool. Timely and important. Timely and important. Can you go back to that last little snippet that you just dropped a second ago? What exactly do you mean by that, and why? Yeah, go lean into that a little bit more for me.
The timely part. Yeah, I mean,
yes.
So
yes.
Obviously, we want talks to live on forever. Like we don't want a talk to be, only relevant to 2019 or 2020, whatever. However, at the same time, we don't want talks that feel like they're from a different era, in the sense that, if someone's pitching a talk now, we want it to feel relevant to now. So let me give an example that I think is kind of helpful to me, at least, which is like Sheryl Sandberg gave that talk 10 years ago around her book Lean In, around like bringing women's voices to the table. Thanks to her and many others, that has become a common theme in culture, like to talk about women at the table. And so having a talk now about getting more women at the table might just feel a little outdated, and so it might not feel, even though of course it's still an issue, the inequality exists and will continue to exist, sadly, for a long time. And we do still need people to be aware of feminism and the pay gap and all the things that are still real and terrible. But, if someone's going to be talking now about women in the workplace, like we would want that talk to take it to a different place. What's the next part of that conversation for TED, so that the content is new and timely. So I guess that's what I mean by timely. And I think with a story, it's trickier, of course, because a story can be personal and it's about what's happening in your life. But I hope that analogy is helpful.
I think so. I definitely think so, because I know that that's a big part of, like, you know, how people can make sure that their stuff is timely, it's relevant, it's going to be lasting on a long time. I was thinking back to, like, I think it was who was it that did the pandemic talk many years ago? Is that Bill Gates?
Bill Gates.
Yeah, it was Bill Gates, and
I don't know.
I
There's
now
probably
know
many.
that was, yeah, but it blew up, like, right after, like, coronavirus. But he kind of caught the wave before it was, like, what it is now.
Right.
So we're right at the top of the hour. I have one last question, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
So, like, to wrap some of this stuff up, I know that, like, as people go into, like, thinking about, like, what their idea is going to be, they might start doing some research. And as they do research, they might say, like, oh my God, there's a million people who have talked about, like, internal peace, or a million people have talked about, like, sexual violence. How, or do you have, like, any tips or strategies or tricks to make that kind of talk still relevant, or, like, still new, or still interesting? I know that they can insert their own story, and their story is going to be always different, and that story is always going to be unique to them. But I'm curious if there's anything else that people can think about in terms of what they can insert into their application or to their idea to make it really kind of stand out to the curatorial team.
Yeah. It's hard sometimes, but I think that it is actually it is actually very doable when you think about, like, just the way topics change over time, like just the way the cultural conversation around certain things, even like your example of inner peace, right? Like, we've had Pico Iyer give a talk about traveling nowhere, staying at home, but traveling in your mind everywhere. And that was something that was pre-pandemic, so it was not yet a thing to stay at home all the time. But that was kind of, like, interesting in the moment. And now it's like, well, what does inner peace look like now when we have to stay at home, right? So, like, take the thing, think about what's happening now, and see whether you're the person to give that talk. I think that that's kind of the most important thing. Like, rather than making sure that your talk is totally different from every other talk related to your topic on TED.com, rather think about, why are you the person to give this particular talk and this version of this topic on this talk? Other examples that are more timely for me right now because of tomorrow's climate countdown event, that's all climate related content, right? We're going to have dozens and dozens of talks from this event all about climate. But the fact is, like, each person is the person to give, I mean, at least in our minds, is one of the most important people to give that particular talk on that lens on climate, like youth activists and what we have to do about, future generations and their engagement with climate activism. The people who are at the front lines, like Shea Bastida, who you've probably all heard of, she's a great person to give that talk, so she's giving it, right? So I would say the same with this, like, with the story, what makes your story, special to you, in the sense that, like, you've had some powerful experience. Like, if you had to escape your country and get asylum somewhere else, what about that story? Do we not hear that often? And why is that? What's the powerful parts, and what are the parts that you need people to understand? So, So I guess to summarize that, why are you the person to give it?
Are you?
See what exists online, and don't be afraid if there's some overlap. And then think about how the topic that you're speaking about has evolved in time to be what it is now, and how you could speak to what it is now.
Excellent. That so makes sense. And it brings me kind of, like, to a closing quote that I think actually works really well, which is the idea that change is inevitable, but growth is optional, right? The world is always going to be changing. Everything's always going to be changing, but our growth is optional. And so the way that we approach internal peace now, or the way that we approach testing in schools now, or the way that we approach the idea of special needs now, might be different than the past. And so how do we address that? How do we show why we're the person to talk about it, what's going on in the world now as it relates to getting the idea out there?
Yeah, that's a beautiful quote. I love that. I think that's a great way to think about it.
Cool. Ladies and gentlemen, this was epic. epic. Oh my gosh.
Thank you
so much. We got a little thank you from Robin. That was probably for answering her question. And thank you just in general for being here. Devin says, such a good summary to focus on. Doesn't feel so far-fetched when you break it down to those key points. Thank you, Devin. So awesome. Bridget, thank you for coming. Thank you from Christina. Thank you. Oh my gosh, all this love. Thank you for this conversation, Dawn and Chloe. I really get the sense that you both are so connected to the world, to the work that you do. I'm grateful we could sit on the space with you too. Thank you, Devin. Thank you, Christina. Thank you, Facebook user, whoever you might be. Thank you, other Facebook user, whoever you might be. Oh, thank you, Regina. Thank you. Yes, thank you, Christina. This is awesome. I'm so glad that you took the time to be with this community. I feel the love, and I really cannot understate how appreciative I am that you took this time to be with us to break this all down.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me, and I hope it was helpful. And everyone out there who watches this now or later, if you want to give a TED Talk, do not be scared. Please apply. We're grateful for every application we get, and we will look at all of them.
Awesome. And if you need a coach, I'm always here to listen to ideas, see as an outsider, because I'm not in a lot of people's industries. But if it starts to make sense to me, then hopefully it'll make sense to more people who are not in your industry. So excellent. Thank you. Good luck with the event tomorrow. I'll be tuning in and checking it out. And I'll also be looking for the idea search, because that's really cool. And I know that it's the way that I got onto stage. And like I said, it was a life-changing event. I didn't even realize that you were there at the time, which is so cool.
I know. I was just a junior producer then, so I was probably running behind the scenes,
Yeah.
But
you
did great. I watched your talk. So.
Yay! You see, 7 years later, y'all, I'm still thinking about was my talk good? Did you like it? Tell the team that the production team that I know that I said hi, and and the person I was talking about was Glenn Canteve.
Oh yes. Mm-hmm.
That's the other fellow that I was thinking about. So awesome. lots of TED love. So I really appreciate you.
I appreciate you too, Dawn. Thank you so much. And
cool.
Have a great day wherever you all are, watchers, viewers on Facebook. So
on Facebook, on YouTube, there's quite a few people in the community who are going to be watching this on replay as well. So
cool.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Chloe.
Thanks, Dawn. Take care.
Take care. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to show you one last thing before we wrap up today's session. As many of you know, I've gotten a lot of questions about what is this all leading to? Give it to me. Oh man, I'm so amped. By the way, today's presentation was brought to you by Swell. Actually, it's not, but But, all right, so this is what's happening. For the past 10 weeks, that started July 30th, I was doing a whole bunch of trainings and a whole bunch of sessions for anybody who's out there who had a vision, who had an idea, who had something that they wanted to focus on, right? So going into this last quarter, I'm super excited to launch, to go into now what is going to be a paid mastermind. Now, Poonam and some other people were asking me okay, Dawn, what's the catch with all of this? There's been no catch. But if you would like to go from what we've been doing these past 10 weeks into a smaller program where I can listen to your ideas, we can look at each other's applications. I'm going to be putting together a list of all the different things, all the different trainings that I know as a storytelling coach is going to be kicking off next week. So if you can bear with me for just a second, I'm going to show you. I see Christina. Oh, I love you too. Bridget, I love your energy too, girl. I'm a little bit crazy. I'm a little cray. Oh, a little Craig. Um, but oh, and thank you, Devin. What a summit. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I've been just trying to like learn all this technology, and I'm glad it's finally like making sense. Like when I first started using StreamYard, I was like, okay, how does the banner go away, right? And then like I was like, oh, how do I invite people, because nobody's link is working, right? This has been like my own like mastermind for the past like couple of months, just like learning how this technology works so I can best serve you all. So, you know. Oh, thank you, Jalalo. I've already given away thousands of dollars of content for free. Thank you for that. Oh my gosh, you guys, my heart is full. My heart is full. Oh, okay. So this is what's going on. This is what's going on next week and the week after that, leading into our mastermind. I don't have everything lined up yet, but I do want to share with you one last image that will show you a little bit about what we got going on. All right, so boom, boom. Ideas that ignite, the 9-week mastermind. It's popping off. It's popping off, ladies and gentlemen. So you can join the upcoming VIP coaching program to craft, amplify, and leverage your TED-worthy idea. The kickoff webinar is going to be next week. It's going to be next week. Well, I'm going to break down exactly like, okay, like what is it that we're going to be doing? How does this look? How does it feel? What exactly is the intention? You all probably already know the intention. The intention is to get you on some stages in 2021, right? Right. I didn't even know that the idea search was popping off in a couple of weeks, but the timing is perfect. The timing is perfect. So I'm putting all of these pieces together now in terms of like what the actually I've been putting together the pieces of what the course is going to look like. So every single week we're going to be meeting on a similar format to what we got now. And every single week, we're going to have at least one person in the hot seat. And the hot seat is going to be your opportunity to actually like work on your idea, flush it out. So similar to what we were doing on Wednesday, but in a much more deep process on a weekly basis as we go through all the different aspects of finding the gigs that are going to be right for you, finding the idea, refining it, actually going into like workshopping it and trying to tell it, and then landing the damn gigs. But my promise to you is that this program, even if you don't get the TED talk like right away or the TEDx talk right away, I'm going to show you every single trick and strategy I know to go from probably being paid nothing, a couple $100, to getting paid $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $45,000. I'm going to share with you every single strategy that I've learned from starting to zero to now working with different nonprofits and government people and contract and businesses that literally have been multiple 6-figure contracts. Okay. There is so much you can do with your stories and with storytelling. And now is the time that we get to lean into actually what we're going to do, how we're going to do it. And the end of this program, of the Ideas That Ignite Mastermind, is putting it all together. So basically, you're going to have a package. You're going to have some type of package that you can provide if you want to go out and you want to do like workshops in the world, or if you want to go out and you want to be paid as a speaker, or if you want to go out and understand how to leverage your own creativity to just go out there and do your solo show and to pitch it to a college or to a university and just to get paid to do your solo show and then maybe like a workshop on the back end, right? There are a lot of different business models. There are a lot of different business models that people who are part of this community should know about, because it is an amazing blessing to be able to do your creativity, to do what you love, and to get paid for it. I like I was telling Chloe, like I feel like I've never stopped learning by becoming a coach. I absolutely love being a coach, and as many of you know, I've had a chance to work with some of the most amazing people in the world. One of the stories that I've shared on stages a lot is my connection to Common. which was something that Common the rapper. In case you don't know him, he's amazing. He's done movies, Grammy Award winner, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, point being is that I want to show you how you can have people calling you in order to have, to get coaching services or to go speak in different countries or around the world, whatever that might be. So anyways, let me stop blabbing because I get amped. I got amped about some of this stuff. So this is going to be the paid portion of this particular program. Okay. So hopefully there's no surprises. Like, I know some of you joined this community at different parts of the past 10 weeks, but if you'd like to check out what we've been up to for the past 10 weeks, go to the Ideas That Ignite Media tab. Under the Media tab, you'll see videos. Under the videos, you'll see the 10 weeks of different training and programs, but that might not be there forever. I have to find a way to actually like restructure some of this stuff because in my opinion, like trying to find stuff on Facebook is kind of a mess, to be honest with you. I love my interview that I did with Daphne LeBlanc, showing me like all the ins and outs of social media, but there has to be an easier way for me to provide this content for you, okay? So if you want to be able to check some of that stuff out within the next week before I move it or I rearrange it and kind of put it onto a different platform, okay? I'll keep you all posted in terms of like all that kind of stuff that's popping up. Sorry, my 7 years ago TED post just popped up in my screen again. I'm gonna move that sucker over. Okay, so anyways, so this is what we're gonna do. Next week on Tuesday, if you're interested in the paid mastermind, definitely come and check out this webinar. I'm going to have it on Tuesday and Thursday of next week. Same time that we have had everything else. I'll be breaking down like exactly what we're going to be doing, how we're doing it, what the end product is, because I think it's really important for you to understand like what it is that you're going to be getting out of this particular program and what you'll be able to do with it going into 2021. Okay, so mark your calendars for the 13th, the 15th, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. The program itself is going to be running for 9 weeks, starting October 19th, which is a Monday, until December 19th, which is a Saturday. Okay, so technically it's going to be to the 18th, but the 19th to the 19th sounded better, so that's why it says that. Okay, it says register at ideasthatIgnite.co. As of today, you'll still see the information for the summit, but going into next week, you'll see all the information for the actual mastermind there. Okay, so that is what we're up to, and I'm beyond excited. I'm beyond excited because I don't know where I'm supposed to be. I honestly cannot recall. It's been quite a few months of just doing the damn thing. But let's see here. Oh, how funny! I'm laughing because I'm going back over to the comments, and I'm seeing some comments here. Robin says, truth, yes, truth. And hello, Common. John, if you streamed to YouTube, it will still be here. Oh, yes, you're right. It will still be on my YouTube channel. But like I said, like I'm trying to figure out the best way to, because I think, Christina, that some of the streams that I did from the Storytelling Tip Thursdays were not streamed properly to YouTube. So I don't think that all of them are there. But that's why I'm just gonna like make sure that they're all like kind of like in one little place. But I'll keep you posted on where that is like next week. So let's see here. Let's go through some questions. Here's my common story. I don't think you can link. I don't think you can click on this particular link. But if you go to Yums the Word, Don J. Fraser, you can find my common story. And let me tell you, it is a doozy. It is a doozy, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, I don't know who your superheroes are in life, but imagine getting a call from your superhero and sharting your pants. I didn't shart my pants, but what I did was probably just as bad. Go check it out. Yums the Word, common. Christina says she cannot wait to see everybody. Yes. Bridget, how much, mama? How much? How much are we talking about here? Yo. I am going to break that down for you because here's the thing. I don't want to just give you like a flat number because there's a lot of things that are like involved in this that also have other value attached to it. For example, like we spoke yesterday with Felicia Jones from I Find You Clothes. Part of the package that I'm offering is going to have like other things like that that are attached to it. So I'm putting together the pricing based off of how much I'm going to be paying other speakers, other consultants, all that kind of stuff. Like today, I have an idea, but I don't want to give it to you quite yet because I want to make sure that all my ducks are in a row that actually adds up mathematically. But let me tell you this, Bridget. The investment is going to be about half of what you would need to land a major gig. For example, when I hired my own coach to start working on what this was, I took a course. It was for speakers. It was for speakers who wanted to speak at colleges, universities. So I hired a coach. I was in a mastermind myself, and this was about like 8 years ago. But I've been through other masterminds since then in terms of like starting a business, blah, blah, blah. But what I realized is that my investment in that one program, that speaking university program, was what I needed to propel my success because I started charging, like I said, $5,000 minimum for a speaking gig. Nowadays, that's pretty much doubled, to be honest with you. So the value of the investment is going to be like nothing compared to what you're going to be able to do with your talk or your idea on the back end. So I'm gonna break that down for you like next week as soon as I get all the numbers and make sure I talk to my consultants, coaches, get all my pricing in order, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so I'm not trying to dodge the question. I'm not trying to be like Kamala and Pence being like, well, let's talk instead about the Republicans. You know, I'm not trying to do that, I promise you. But I do promise you that it will be worth every single penny. Okay? Awesome. So, next question. Wait, we have to register in the Facebook group? No, you have to register for the mastermind. You have to register for the mastermind. The Facebook group is still going to be here. I am not going to be as active in it because I'm going to be focusing my attention on those who are in the mastermind and doing a lot of the coaching, the small group coaching. So the Facebook group is not going to go away. But if you want to be part of the mastermind, you'll have to register for the mastermind. Okay, cool. How can I show my name? So lovely Facebook user, what you want to do is like at the top of this particular string, there should be something that says like, I'm going live using StreamYard. So it says, I'm going live using StreamYard. Let me see if I can pull it up. Please give StreamYard permission. It looks like this. Please grant StreamYard permission to see your name at streamyard.com/Facebook. So if you go there, it'll just be like a quick, a little click. It's like one of those things where like, because this is a public group, they want to make sure that you're okay with like showing your name. So yeah, so that's how I'll be able to see your name. If you go to facebook.com/StreamYard, it's quick. It's a quick like 2-step kind of a thing where you will be able to share your name. So I'm sorry if I wasn't able to shout you out earlier. I'm assuming that maybe that's Sabatina or maybe Punam. Not really sure. Okay, so let's see here. Robin is saying that the common story is on the Yums the Word Show's YouTube channel. So if you put in Yums the Word, go to the YouTube channel, and you'll be able to find my common story. Just like look up Don J. Fraser. Or I think, you know what? If you even go into like just Google and just put Don J. Fraser common, I think it's like one of the first results that pop up. So you'll see it there. Okay. So let's see here. Bridget says, I agree. I believe you. You are so good at this and have provided so much useful information. Thank you, Mama. Thank you, Mama. Here's the thing. A couple of years ago, when I put together my very first program, it had a lot of people from our storytelling community in it. Robin was in it. Tracy. What's Tracy's last name? Long Island Tracy. um, Natasha Boyce, um, Shannon Kaysen, who was here. Actually, Shannon is a very good example as well, because Shannon shared with me that after he went through my program, that he landed his first six-figure podcasting deal. So I remember him calling me up and asking, Dawn, like, this is happening. Like, how much do I charge? I actually underquoted. I said something like $80,000, and I was like, but that might be low. He came back to me and he's like, they offered me six figures plus, and I was like, rock on with your badass self, right? So Shannon is a perfect example. Tracy's a great example too. Like, she came back to me after the course and she's like, all right, this is happening. I just landed my first like 5K plus gig. Now I'm working with foundations. How much do I charge them, right? The only reason why I know a lot of this information is because I've had help and other coaches and people have explained to me like what the business model is, the business model. And that's what the thing is that I think that a lot of us as creatives don't always know how to do. Like, we have amazing solo shows, we have amazing stories. My goal is for you to know what the business models are and how to get your stuff out there, so that if you are going to speak at or to put together a podcast, that you know how to make money off of your creativity. Uh, and that's ultimately like my goal. So the nice thing about it is I'm not going to go anywhere even after the 9 weeks. People will always have my phone number. People will always have access to me to ask like these questions, because it's an amazing blessing to be able to share our stories in this way that that actually provides value in the world and also can get us paid and make us, you know, make our worlds amazing. So awesome. Christina, you have to sign off shortly. No problem, Mama. I'm so glad that you can make it. You have been like a rock star from day one. I think that you and Robin, I think, were probably like amongst the first like 10 in this group that now have like 150 some odd people. So send you so much love. Thank you for being here. You're awesome. I love you. I'll see you soon. Let's see, Devin. Oh yeah, so it's also in the description for the live. For the live. So if you can't see it, just check out the live in order to figure out how to see it. And yes, I now see you, Samantina. What is up, sister? Welcome to Ideas That Ignite. I can finally see your face. So so it seems that we're on a roll with getting people you know, seeing them properly. Poonam, I still can't do it. Not really sure. Not really sure. Maybe Devin can drop you a link or a line. Not so sure why you can't do it. Let's see. Robin says, totally, no matter what, we should all sign up. Dawn rocks. Thank you, Robin. I mean, I would love to be able to kind of talk about your experience, because I know that you went through story to speech to sale, and now you're also doing a lot of the same stuff, like you're coaching and working with individuals, working with nonprofits, I believe, corporations. You also have your own podcast, you know. So my dream, y'all, the reason why like I'm so passionate and excited about this shit is because like the more people that we have doing this, the more it lifts us all up, right? If somebody's doing the exact same thing as me, that's awesome. I don't see them as my competitor. I see them as my freaking colleague, you know, because we need more people who are doing this kind of work. We need more people who are sharing their voices and their energy and their love and their ideas on stages, right? So, you know, my whole purpose, I feel, one of my purposes is to like to bring us all up as creatives, as storytellers, as creatives, to make sure that we're supporting each other. Like, there is so much room in this community to do some kick-ass work. So so yeah, I've been teaching forever and ever, it feels like, even though it's been about 8-10 years, whatever. But this is what I do. It's what I do all the time. I guarantee you, I will put 100% of my love and my soul, my time into making sure that your dreams are accomplished. Okay. Let's see here. Let's see. Business? What business? Yes, Christina, you are a business. Your book. If you have a book, do you know how to leverage that book into like something like online or something that people can constantly like just like buy, speaking tours, that kind of stuff. Like there's all these different business models that can actually like make a very, very nice lifestyle out of your works, out of your stories. So yeah. So yeah. Uh-oh. What has happened? Come here. Chill out. Sorry, dog just like lost her mind. Lost her mind there. I don't know what's going on. Okay, Samatina, you said you sent an email to the website? I sent an email on the website. Click on the link that Devin sent. Okay, I'm not so sure what you mean by you sent an email on the website. You mean to register? Okay, here's the thing. You probably registered for the Ideas That Ignite Summit. You probably registered for this, the 5 days. And so I'm going to be sending you a link once I kind of repurpose the content and put it into like an easier format for you to find. I'm going to be sending everybody who registered for the summit the recap of like how to like get it in an easy format, so you don't have to always like log into Facebook, go to the tab, blah 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 blah. Right? I'm going to be sending you all a link on how to do that. But that's also going to be the website that you can register for the mastermind, the upcoming mastermind. Okay. Let's see. Bridges is asking, who is my web designer and do you have a social media person, tech, or intern? It's time consuming to be a self-starter and coach, so I want to hand it over to someone else. Girl, whoo, let me tell you, this is a great question. But before I answer your question, Samantina, you're trying to register for next week. There's nothing to register for next week. There's nothing yet. If you go to the ideasthatIgnite.co, it's everything for this week. Next week, I'm going to have the information for and the registration for the program that's going to start the week after. That makes sense? If I have my calendar, it'll probably make a little bit more sense. So starting on the 12th to the 16th is when I'm going to have all the information about the course, the program. The program itself is not going to start until the next week on the 19th. So the program itself starts about a week and a half, because technically our office hours, our training, all that kind of stuff is most likely going to be on Thursday. So next week you'll have information. I'll have the information available for you about how to register for the course, which will start the week after, and that's going to be on the week of the 19th. Okay, cool. So let's go back to Bridget. So here's the deal, girl. First off, definitely get something up rather quickly if you can, with just like a simple one-pager that has just videos and your bio, if you can. I use Squarespace, and that's when I first started. I've had an about.me page that shows you how old I am. How old? Sorry, flying things and going on over here. But I had an about.me page. I don't even know if this shit still exists. I doubt it. But what I want you to do is to start to get all your content together. So you probably already have your bio. You probably already have all of your stories, right, in some type of location. And then you probably have like what you want to do as a coach, right? So the first thing that you can do is hire like a UX designer, and I can refer you to somebody. I'm spacing out on her name right now because I did mine a couple years ago. But essentially what I did is I hired a UX designer just to kind of like put all of the pieces into place. And then to kind of like just because I kind of knew how to cut and paste the content into cubes. That's easy, right? But I needed somebody to kind of like make a basic outline for me. And that was cheaper than hiring like a whole firm or a whole company or a person to like create the entire website for me. So I can give you the name of a UX designer. I personally really like Squarespace, because I find it super easy to adapt, modify, change it up once you actually have the content. So I hired first a UX designer. I don't think it was more than like 500, maximum $1,000, if that. So I'll give you my contact person for that. And then from there, like every summer, I think for the past couple of years, I've had an intern. Um, there are a couple of different associations that like people who are interested in being producers for shows, or people who are interested in editing podcasts, or whatever that might be. So I've for the past couple of summers, I've had an intern, and they do everything from like helping me to book guests to like doing small little tweaks to the website, because it is pretty simple. Um, to editing some stuff, like to setting up like like call in lines for podcasting stuff. Anyways, point being is that I did hire first an initial designer just to get the Squarespace stuff set up. Really easy to kind of like plug and play once you have it up. And then yes, during the summers, if you were able to like to either tap into your alumni, I'm part of a group called Harvard Wood, which are Harvard alumni in arts, entertainment, and media. And so that's how I found a lot of my interns. But I know that a lot of schools, especially like creative schools, have like other places, other sources where you can find talent. So I totally understand you wanting to pass that off on somebody. It's not my forte either. Social media, not my forte either. As soon as I like have like enough people in my own business, like part of my goal, honestly, is to have like a very small team. I've had teams in the past, but most of them have had to be like just short-term contractors or just summer interns, whatever. But the dream is to actually have like a very small team that is going to be putting together different programs, projects, and guarantee you I will have somebody be doing my social media and the tech stuff. So hit me up, just send me an email or a DM. Jasmine, that's her name. Jasmine is the person that put together my first UX design, and it took like a day or two to kind of get that set, and then we were good to go. Okay, so I hope that helps. Yeah, Robin is saying something similar, that she loves Squarespace. I have at least 3 sites through them. Yeah, I do too. Like once you have one, I think I have like 4 websites on Squarespace, because it's that simple. It's literally that simple. It makes it super simple to just create a website out of your content. So check out squarespace.com. In my opinion, the best. You can also go to WordPress, but in my opinion, like there's too many like if you want to do different things, you have to plug in, you have to create this plugin, and you have to add this other plugin. Like the hell with a plugin. Just give me a template with all the stuff that it works. All right. So, anyways. Any other questions? Take a sip of water. I'm just like amped. That you have 4 websites. The only thing I've heard is that they're not great for SEO. Mm-hmm. Yes, it's totally true. I do believe that WordPress is actually better at SEO than Squarespace is. So if you do hire somebody like a UX designer, you might also want to see if they know a thing or two about SEO, because of course there's a way to like insert SEO on your website, but it's something that you might want to like look into. At the same time, I do have to say that the SEO is probably not the forte of Squarespace. But when I asked, I have a current contract with Google right now, and when I asked them like how they found me, they're like, "Oh, we just Googled, like storytelling coaches or storytelling instructors or something like that." Like, are you serious? Like, but there's no way that I popped up as the first person on if you do that search. So I don't know exactly how this whole SEO thing works, but I do know that it's working well enough for somebody like me who is kind of independently employed to get enough recognition from a company like Google. And keep in mind, Bridget, also that you may have heard me say this yesterday, but in order to get paid like $10,000, $15,000, $45,000 as a speaker, as a coach, you need to look like a $10,000, $15,000, $45,000 speaker. So as much as possible, use high definition for everything. High definition video, high definition photos. Make sure that your writing and your content looks good. It is like, it's one of those things that is really going to help. I'm laughing because I'm now just seeing like your last comment. Google, yeah, girl. This will actually be my second contract with them in the past year and a half. And to be honest with you, like I don't need to do programs or courses like this because I have clients that are helping to pay me. And it's amazing. I've worked with, in the past year and a half, I've worked with Google. You may know that Spotify flew me out to Sweden to do some stuff out there. I was in New York not too long ago with Vox Media and Chanel. And like, these are all companies that came like directly to me. Like, I want to teach you how to do the same thing. It's not complicated, but you do have to put in a little bit of effort and a little bit of, some tweaks here and there. Oh wait, let me go back to your comment here. I have Wix and it's not doing it for me. Sweet thanks. Screw the plugins, girl. Screw the plugins. That's right. Screw the plugins. Yeah, like Wix it's not my favorite either. I'm not much of a fan. You want to see my necklace and my doggy? Okay, this is from Brazil. This is a seed, semente do açaí, which is actually you may have heard of acai bowls. So it's a really, really red, almost like maroon kind of a color. Come, Bella, they want to see you. Come. Good girl. And this is my pup. This is my pup. Say hi. Oh, okay. Don't look at me. Say hello. Say hi, Bridget and Ideas at Night crew. Say hello. This is like the quietest she's ever been during a live session. I'm amazed. I'm totally amazed. I don't know what's going on. She's like sedated today. Bye-bye. Totally have changed my lifestyle since moving back to California and adopting a dog. Absolutely love it. But yeah, this is from Brazil. I was in Brazil for Carnival in 2020, earlier this year, which feels like a lifetime ago. So that's what that's all about. So let's see. Any other questions? Richard, I'm not so sure if I heard your idea. We had an idea. Thank you, Robin. Thank you, Gelado. This is the quietest Bella has ever been, girl. I know that's right. I straight up have, look, I have dog treats on reserve. Why are dog treats in my bedroom? Because of the dog. Like she comes up and like onto the bed. It's just kind of like just like at the most inappropriate times. So yeah. Any other questions? Before jumping off the stream? Any other questions? I'm just gonna scroll back up, make sure I didn't miss anything. You sharing your energy, love, and expertise has a boomerang effect. Thank you. I also had a little bit of a pumpkin spice latte today. So you know what happens. You know what happens when I put just like the tiniest ounce of caffeine. I specifically had to ask them for like 1 shot of espresso because otherwise your girl gets crazy. So yeah. Let's see. I'm just scrolling, making sure that everybody, Poonam, if you're still there, like I hope that we eventually get to see your beautiful face in the StreamYard. we'll work with you on making sure that happens. But anyways, okay. So I think we're good. So next week, y'all, next week, I'll have all the information that you need about what the mastermind is, how you can sign up for it. I miss you too, Bridget. I miss you too. I am so excited to see that you're about to do some coaching stuff as well, to get yourself out there. You've been spending some years studying, girl. Let's get you paid. Let's pay off them student loans. You know what I'm saying? You know. Oh, I missed one of your comments here. Up here in Hudson Valley, and to be a career. Yes, yes. Storytelling workshops and a career coach. Boom, boom, bitches, boom. All right. I'm gonna show you how to turn that into a business. It's fun. It's fun. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So I am hoping that I'll see you next week. You know, if you're not interested in going beyond the 10 weeks that we've had, no offense whatsoever. If you are, definitely stay tuned next week, October 13th, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. Thursday, we're going to be doing like an encore. And next week I might be going live just a couple of times. You know, I might just have like one day of just Q&A. Just ask me anything kind of a day. You know, the second day I might do like a webinar. Still kind of like putting all that stuff together. But definitely stay on the lookout for all that, okay? So what does Bridget say? And I be tired. No more corporate life. Toot toot. Peace out. I have a Janelle Monáe song to sing for you. How does it go? Oh, look up Janelle Monáe, Letting Go. It's like my anthem. It's my anthem. It's like this song. She's like, I no longer have a 9 to 5. I'm letting go. I'm a party anyways. You know, it's like my anthem song. Keep in mind, I haven't worked in a corporate environment in like 10 years. So I've been singing that song for the past 10 years. But yeah, there's nothing more than I love than having my own business and my own people to work with. So very cool. All right. Whew. All right, y'all. This has been epic, 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 epic. Thank you so much for being here, for your time. You guys really brought the questions today. Which was really cool. And I'm really glad that Chloe was able to inspire y'all. She inspired me. I know that I was trying to take notes while interviewing, so I'm gonna go back to like listen to some of the nuggets of wisdom. But if you're a storyteller, if you are a creative, if you are an author or writer, if you are a speaker, if you're trying to get onto the stage of the TED or TEDx, or if you're just like looking to find that signature speech that you can leverage into something that you can pitch to corporations, to nonprofits, to you know, if you want to do one-on-one coaching, whatever your business model is, we're about to get into it. Oh, let's see what Devin has to say. I left all of this, all 10 weeks and the summit. I'm going to raise my energy and lean into the intention of doing the mastermind with you. Thank you so much for all of this. Thank you, Devin. I would love to have you in the mastermind. If it works out for you. Like it's going to be a great community. You know, just I've really enjoyed like the past 10 weeks, kicking it with you, hearing your stories. So I hope that you're able to join as well. So, all right, y'all. It is a little bit after lunchtime here in California. I know it's probably getting towards the end of the workday out there in New York City or in the Central Time Zone, Pacific Time Zone, if you're watching this on replay. So yeah, I'm sending you like all my love. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Thank you so much for being part of my first ever virtual summit. This is the first for me. So I'm so excited that you all signed up, that you participated. You can just see, I'm just smiling. It's like cheesy. I'm like smiling so much, it's like hard for me to talk, right? But you guys really have brought a smile to my face to get your support and to hear your stories, your ideas, and to be with you for these trainings. So I'll be seeing you all hopefully next week. All right, sending you my love. My blessings. Let's do it. All right. Talk to y'all soon. Ciao.